before we begin, thanks for the support on the last superhero games video. Anyway, let's get into it. So following the aforementioned video, I soon completed InFamous Second Son. Wow. Honestly, one of my new favorite games. I'm not kidding, despite it almost being as old as the PS4 itself, the game has aged like fine wine. The graphics are decent, the gameplay is fun and chaotic, and the story, while not the best, was enjoyable. And most importantly, I had fun. So here is my praise for yet another Sucker Punch smash hit. Like and subscribe if you enjoy, as, believe it or not, it helps out a ton. With all that out of the way, let's dive in. Delson is a power sponge with the ability of power absorption. In other words, he can absorb the powers of other conduits. In total though, he only gets 4 powers, but for its time, it is impressive that they made each power feel unique in some way. You're able to upgrade powers with blast shards that can be obtained from drones or core relays. Delson's first power is smoke. He gains this ability in the first mission, and for a little bit, it's his primary power. Delson gets a weird chain around his wrist that he uses to fight in melee combat, and he can smoke dash and fire smoke blasts. If I'm being honest, post-game I hardly use smoke anymore because I don't really like it. I mean, at the start it's okay, but it's way too basic for my taste. Further upgrades gave you the ability to dash into vents and fly out of it, but honestly, it's a pretty boring power even with upgrades. However, the second power, Neon, is my personal favorite of the bunch. This power is a lot easier to drain since there's neon lights all over Seattle, meaning you're likely to use this a lot more than you'd expect. Also, for melee combat, you get a goddamn lightsaber! That's awesome! Then you get to dash way quicker and way cooler than you would using smoke. You can now speed up buildings and just run for an extended period of time. The max upgrade for this ability gives you infinite running distance, meaning you can run as long as you want, practically becoming a speedster. Your range attack is a lot quicker, and now you can hit enemies' legs for good karma or head for bad karma. We'll get into the karma system later. Neon is just so much cooler than smoke overall, in my opinion. For the third power, Video, you can dash into satellite dishes and fly into the air for a little bit with wings, but this usually doesn't last for very long. You can now use your ranged attack like a railgun, stunning your enemies before they get a chance to move or react. But the standard version of this power is pretty lame, and if you ask me, it only gets good with later upgrades when you can fire a bunch of swords from thin air or summon a bunch of angels to rain hellfire. Other than that, I think it's pretty alright. Finally, for the fourth and last power, you get Concrete after the final boss fight. And it's... mid! You can only drain it after defeating some D.U.P guys, and you can't do a whole lot with it. Boulder Dash looks cool, but you could very well kill a civilian or two on accident. But I do find each power fun to use, even Concrete. Now for the karma system, the very thing that makes InFamous unique in the first place. Let me explain. You have two options in InFamous. Either become a hero, which is attuned to good karma, or become infamous, which is attuned to evil karma. You get good karma for subduing enemies, healing injured civilians, stopping a drug deal, or saving a bunch of suspected conduits. On the other hand, evil karma is usually obtained by committing murder. That's pretty much it. Oh, and during certain missions, Delson is faced with a moral choice that affects his karma greatly. I said in a previous video that the karma system is fairly dated, and I do still stand by that. Not the good karma, but rather the evil karma. All you do to be evil is kill and just live by your own rules. The good karma, though, is a lot more complex than just killing annoying people. Hell, for some reason, you can kill wounded civilians. There is literally no reason to do this. I do not understand why you would do this, because it just doesn't make sense. Why would you do this? What is the point in this? The point is, you're evil just to be evil. Aside from a certain point in the story, there's no real reason for Delson to be evil, considering the reason Delson goes to Seattle. It doesn't make sense for him to be evil instead of good. It feels very forced, which you'll see when we talk about the story more. I will say though, it's a lot easier to kill people than it is not to in the game. That's pretty cool when you think about it. Delsin Rowe is a graffiti artist and part of the Awesomeness tribe. He gets caught vandalizing for the 100th time by his brother Reggie Rowe, the local sheriff. While they're arguing, a military truck carrying conduits crashes on the road, and 2 of the conduits get away while 1 conduit gets stuck. When Delson goes to help the conduit, he suddenly gets a flash of the conduit's memories. When he comes to, he realizes he somehow got powers from Hank, the conduit, realizing that he himself has become a conduit. He chases after Hank to find out how he got his powers and how he can control them, resulting in a fight. Delson chases Hank outside, but Augustine, head of the D.U.P, shows up, encasing Hank in concrete and seemingly killing him. Then she questions Delson, since he's acting quite suspicious.
It's been my experience there are only 2 reasons for people to be nervous. Either they're cowards, or they have something to hide.
Well, you know, I also get nervous around pretty girls.
She then threatens to interrogate the tribe members if he refuses to answer her. And this is where you get your first karmic choice. Either give up the tribe for evil karma or tell the truth for good. Regardless of what you choose, Augustine knocks Delson down and interrogates the tribe. When Delson comes to about a week later, he learns that Augustine left a bunch of concrete shards in the tribe members to torture them, and if they aren't taken out, they'll all die. Which is a bad thing. So Delson and Reggie, mostly Delson, decide to go to Seattle for Delson to absorb Augustine's concrete powers like he did Hank, which is easier said than done considering the amount of D.U.P in Seattle. When Delson learns there are a couple conduits somewhere in Seattle that escaped from the military truck that crashed, he suddenly gets an idea to absorb their powers. First up is dealing with a neon power conduit who uses her powers to brutally kill drug dealers specifically. Why? Well, you find out more about this mystery killer who seems to care about someone named Brent for some reason. Whatever the reason, Delson waits for this mystery conduit to show up on a rooftop where Delson manages to grab her and absorb her powers. Then you get to chase after her using your new neon powers. Why do so many superhero video games have a chase segment? To show off their amazing open world? Anyway, the two of you get stuck in a building full of neon signs where you get a boss fight against her. This is actually surprisingly creative, as to weaken her you have to drain the neon signs to prevent her from recharging like you do. And throughout the fight, she seems to think you're from the D.U.P for some reason. After draining the signs, you can finally fight her for real using your new neon beam as your ranged attack. From there, the fight isn't too difficult, as she mainly just runs around trying to lose you. But Delson stops her and grabs her, absorbing more of her powers and saves all of her memories. Abigail fetched Walker ran from home with her brother upon her gaining powers, and a bunch of other stuff happened along the way, including the two doing drugs, attempting to get clean, then going back into the drugs or something. Honestly, seeing her memories felt like an acid trip in itself. Plus, it was kind of terrifying. Jeez. Brutal, to be honest. Anyway, Reggie shows up after you wake up, and Delson argues with Reggie about imprisoning her. When she tries to run, Reggie grabs her, and this is where you get yet another karmic choice. Either you redeem Fetch and teach her to do the right thing instead of being bloodthirsty, or throw all that out the window. Regardless, Reggie leaves the two of you alone as you help her take down some drug operations. If you chose the good choice, you also help her free some women who,
Love. Just not professionally.
Yeah, let's move on. If you chose the evil choice, you film her murdering some drug lord or something on live TV and...
You have activists out
You wanna
there.
hook up?
Oh dang, that happened. You get a phone call after, which changes depending on the route. And in the good one, it seems like they have an actual relationship,
I gotta go hook up with the other woman in my life.
whereas in the evil one, it seems like they have, mutual understanding, so to speak.
Just wanted to call and say thanks, stud. Sorry about all those laser blasts at the end there, but it's been, a while.
Yikes. But either way, Delson bags her, so I guess that's a win. This next conduit Delson encounters is somebody with the ability of video who summons these strange virtual angels and demons. You're also helped by this kid who saw you vandalize a space needle named Eugene. The aforementioned conduit seems to only grab conduits with those strange yellow vests that supposedly dampen their powers, and only when they're being chased by Delson, interestingly enough. Reggie and Delson form a plan for Reggie to wear one of the vests and pretend he's being chased by Delson in the hopes that Reggie will be grabbed by one of the angels and taken to wherever this conduit is. And the dialogue here is hilarious if I'm being honest.
I'm gonna take this shit off. Then I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep.
But moving on, Delson goes into this strange lair where he finds the D.U.P vest, but not the conduits in them. And throughout his exploration of this strange place, he continuously finds an arcade cabinet that teleports him into a boss fight against what seems to be this conduit, He Who Dwells. Delson is forced to travel over lava onto pillars and absorb neon and smoke to slow down He Who Dwells. This area is pretty insane since his video beam attack is very, very annoying to deal with. But eventually, after entering this realm for the third time, you beat him and both of you end up in the real world. When Delson grabs the kid behind all this to absorb his powers, he realizes it's Eugene and enters his memories. To sum it all up, Eugene is the type of kid to go, "To me, the game is my home. Society shunned me away." Or something like that. I guarantee you, he would have, without a doubt, joined r/nice guys. But jokes aside, Eugene is just a poor kid who tried to do the right thing. As it would turn out, the conduits he captured were actually freed by him, hence the pile of empty vests. Now, when Reggie shows up to arrest him, you get another karmic choice to either redeem or corrupt him. Nothing really changes either way, so I'm skipping that whole shebang. Now, at some point, Delson learns Hank is alive and chases after him, eventually getting him to listen. Hank calls Delson up to tell him that Eugene and Fetch were kidnapped off screen and are being held on an island made entirely of concrete by Augustine. Yikes. Hey, maybe we'll be able to do something like that when we get concrete. Reggie decides to change and acknowledges that Fetch and Eugene aren't freaks, but people. Ah, character development. Anyway, he helps Hank and Delson get in using their smoke powers while he commandeers a boat to get into the island. Still one of the most annoying missions of the game for me. But back to what I was saying, Delson and Hank manage to destroy the pillars in the island, but suddenly Augustine appears, capturing Delson and using concrete to stop him from using his powers. As it would turn out, Hank sets you up for unknown reasons and he dips. However, at the last second, Reggie shows up in the most insane way possible by using a rocket launcher to blow up Augustine. And I thought Sergeant Johnson was badass. Delson is forced to walk all the way to where Eugene and Fetch are while gunfire goes all around him, eventually making it to the concrete prison where they are. However, even though Fetch and Eugene presumably survive and escape, concrete surrounds Reggie as he and Delson begin to fall, with Delson barely holding on to Reggie as he clings on for dear life. And this happens.
I'm so proud of you. No. Always have been. No. Lindsay, don't. I love you, bro. No!
Wow. That really got me. And it got Delson too. All of a sudden, you're fighting Augustine as the audio is muffled and all you can hear is Delson's rage as he fights Augustine to death, kicking her around and blasting her with smoke. I usually died a lot on my first playthrough of this game, but right here, I was so determined to avenge Reggie to the point where I held out for the entire boss fight. And eventually you get enough karma from kicking an old lady around that you can orbital drop her ass. What's so cool to me is that usually Delson smiles or smirks when he does his drop. But here, it's nothing but anger and hatred for Augustine. And after he lands, the music finally stops being muffled as the island begins to shake and crumble, with Augustine fleeing momentarily as D.U.P show up to do her dirty work. I like to think that the reason for the audio being muffled in the first place was because of Delson's POV. Basically, Delson was only focused on taking out Augustine, nothing else. Once everything began to shake, Delson was finally able to focus, hence the reason for the audio being clearer. Such an underappreciated amount of detail that, once again, shows how good Sucker Punch is at making games. Eventually, though, once Augustine resurfaces and Delson switches to video, the island collapses after Delson rains hellfire on Augustine. Yeah, that's how destructive their fight was. Holy. Delson barely makes it back to Seattle, swearing revenge for Reggie by getting to Hank. He follows a trail of destruction left behind by Hank, eventually finding him at the docks trying to get away. Delson grabs him, but Hank says that Augustine had his daughter and all he wants is to get away for good with her. He tries to go to her, but Delson wraps his chain around his neck as we get to, no joke, one of the hardest decisions I had to make ever playing a video game. Either spare Hank and let him flee with his kid, or kill him for revenge. If you kill him to make things even, choking him out, his daughter still cries out for her father, not knowing he's gone, as Delson walks away, seemingly satisfied. But looking at his eyes, I get the feeling he knows this did nothing for him. In contrast, if you spare him, like I reluctantly did for the first time, he literally offers Delson a chance to come with him, no hard feelings. Delson, though, has a promise to keep, and wishes Hank well as he leaves. Regardless, now comes the final mission. Delson gets to an electrical unit where the electric wiring on the D.U.P tower is supposedly connected to. Now, you either pick the good karma mission or the evil karma mission, depending on what you currently have. Either way, the unit only shuts down part of the defenses and you're forced to climb and fight alone. That is, until Eugene and Fetch show up to help you out. Now you rally an assault with the two of them and smash the D.U.P's defenses, eventually breaking into the building and fighting Augustine. Delson calls out Augustine for staging the crash at the InFamous reservation, so she could be the hero, by swooping in and making it seem like the D.U.P are the heroes. Now this is where things slightly change depending on the karma you have. If you have good karma, Delson is told by Augustine how impressed she is that he managed to get people to support a conduit, calling it rare. Interesting she didn't say this was the first time this happened. Anyways, Augustine offers Delson a chance to be the face of the D.U.P, but Delson rejects this, deciding to expose her for all she's done. Evil karma is a bit different, obviously. Augustine instead tells Delson that everyone is against him, and that if she were to kill the most hated conduit, the D.U.P would continue to get funding and praise, but Delson is determined to kill her first. Regardless of what you choose, Augustine's concern is less about conduits like she claims, and more about the D.U.P and her position of power.
To use that popularity, that trust, to convince them that the only solution to the bioterrorist menace is my D.U.P. And once the world sees the head of the D.U.P. saving them from the biggest bioterrorist threat of the last 7 years, your death will buy my D.U.P. at least 20 more years of funding. I'm so glad we met when we did. Oh no. Are you gonna kill me now?
You're goddamn right I am.
Delson fights and beats Augustine, but she seemingly gives up and allows Delson to absorb her powers, and in turn, see her memories. Somehow the conduit gene re-emerged in people, Augustine being in one of them. She and another survivor named Celia, a young girl, traveled through the ruined city until the military got its act together and decided that the conduits were the threat. So what does Augustine do? That's right, she literally betrays the child who's following her through hell. I was genuinely so shocked to see this happen, honestly. However, Augustine claims her intentions were good-hearted. She intended to imprison every single conduit in Kernike to protect them from the mobs outside. However, what she fails to realize is she slowly lost it mentally. She trained certain conduits and experimented on others, tortured the tribe members, killed Reggie. Yeah, there's no redeeming her. Delson points out that all Augustine did was take away the conduit's freedom. Augustine uses her powers to make a big concrete scorpion, I think? Anyways, Delson calls out to Eugene to grab some core relays so he can get concrete powers. For the first portion of the fight, you're running away until you get enough powers to face Augustine off. But I gotta say, I am really disappointed that you didn't get an ultimate move with concrete. It would have been so cool and badass if you got that and used it against Augustine. But my personal grievances aside, Delson uses concrete against Augustine by encasing her in it. And then you get either the good or evil ending. In the good ending, Delson spares Augustine but exposes all she's done to the public, causing the D.U.P to be disbanded and conduits being granted the chance to coexist with humans and all the Curtain K prisoners being freed. Delson goes home to fulfill a promise, healing the tribe with his concrete powers, telling Betty that Reggie saved him. He then paints a mural in Reggie's honor, echoing Zeke's lines in InFamous 2.
I love you, brother. I'm sure gonna miss you.
In the evil ending, Delson kills Augustine and takes over Seattle with the help of Fetch and Eugene, and absorbs every conduit's powers from Curtain K. When he returns home though, Betty is now in a wheelchair, implying that Delson probably took a longer period of time to return home. She reveals that the TV showed all of Delson's evil deeds, banishing Delson from the Akomish and shutting him out. However, if you have max evil karma, Delson literally orbital drops the reservation. Wow, did not expect that. Now that we've summed everything up, I think it's best to share my overall thoughts on the story, but mainly on the good/evil karma routes. I personally think the only good part of the evil run is when Delson loses it in the ending, as it does make sense. After all, Reggie died during their journey to save the tribe, so for the Akomish to banish him probably hurt. But other than that, I think the karma system is still really dated, even story-wise. I mean, the good karma route is a really well-written story that shows character development from Delson. I mean, after Reggie dies, Delson doesn't really crack jokes or be lighthearted. Rather, he's focused on bringing Augustine to justice and saving his tribe. He matures as a person, even helping other people grow like Fetch and Eugene. I think that's impressive. On the evil route, although it's very easy, it's also lacking in story. Whereas you're a symbol of the people in the good route, you're just a murderous jerk in the evil route. Instead of helping Fetch and Eugene with their problems, you just go, hey, that terrible thing you're doing? I dig it, keep going. It just feels like you're being evil for the sake of being evil, as I said before, and it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Don't get me wrong, sometimes plain evil characters like Jack Horner, for example, are really fun to watch. But in InFamous, I think they could have easily made the evil route a little more morally grey, like making Delson believe what he's doing is necessary, rather than him enjoying it in such a psychotic way. Overall, I know this game is a little old, almost a decade by the time this video releases, but you can't blame me for thinking the evil route is dated, even first time. Still though, the good route is well done in terms of story. Overall, this is one of the most fun games I ever played. It feels very fluid and smooth, while also feeling very powerful to control Delson. With that being said, the only major grievances I have are, as you already know, the evil karma route and the lack of connection to InFamous 2. Don't get me wrong, I still love this game, but the Cole's Legacy DLC could have done a better job at tying the knots and plot holes that a lot of people disliked. Still, InFamous Second Son is an underrated gem that I'm glad I found. Although Sucker Punch moved on from InFamous a while ago, I still think there's potential for a sequel or just a continuation in the universe. Hey, you know what? I just might write my own InFamous game. Tell me in the comments if I should make that into a video, because I would honestly love to. If you want to get this game, go for it. You don't really have to play or experience the first two games to play Second Son. All that aside, I hope you guys loved this video as much as I loved making it. Please do like and subscribe, as it really helps out with the channel and grants me the ability to make more bangos like this one. Have a good day and thanks for watching.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!